Welcome to the second episode of Quills with Skills. Quills with Skills is this little project I've started where I talk about how I do my creative writing and thoughts on how you can maybe benefit from that, how you can improve your own writing, little tips and tricks on how to work creatively. And last time I was talking about how do you get started with your novel or other writing project and how do you pull through. And my advice was to turn it into little packages that you can actually complete. Like, for example, lowering the size of your pages, which is something I did for the Aqualon novel, where one page is only half-sized, and so when I write something and I'm done, I can see that I wrote like, I don't know, 2 or 3 pages instead of like at best one international paper page, which is just I think frustrating for people. You write and write and write, and then it just looks like you haven't accomplished much. And I think that is a real turn down, something that really makes you want to quit. And I don't think it's something you have to deal with. You can just create an environment where it feels like you accomplish more, and then you will automatically accomplish more, because feeling accomplished is something that will give you the strength to do more. You have to trick the old noggin. You have to really force that reward. But anyways, one of the things that I did also talk about during the last segment is sort of splitting up your story into different narrative strands. Give different perspective on what is happening during your story, and in that have the ability to just write about the experiences of one character and then the next. And every time you just feel like I don't know what to write next, I don't know where to go next, but I could still write a little. And at that point, you just switch to a different narrative strand, to a different character, and continue their story. And maybe by the time you're finished, you will have thought of what to do next with the previous character you were working with. And so that is something I've been doing here. I'm so sorry. In my novel, where I sort of have, for example, Atlas, my main character, describing what is happening to him. It's a third-person narrator, but he is sort of tied to Atlas. He describes the world through Atlas's eyes, or he sticks close to Atlas, and he knows Atlas's thoughts, but not anyone else's. And the same goes for Nanashi, the Null, and all the other narrative strands that are happening in my novel. And this leads to the part that I want to talk about today in Quills with Skills, which is giving your characters a voice. This is, I think, incredibly important in narration, and it really helps make your characters feel real, make them feel engaging. You have to think of every character as, well, their own character, as their own narrative entity. Of course, you are always the narrator. You tell the story, you write it down. But if you funnel your narration through the perspective of a character, and it doesn't matter if you have like this multiple narrative setup that I have, or if you just have different characters tell stories, even in direct speech, it is important to understand your own character, to know who is this person and how does this person think, how does this person speak. Each and every one of my characters has their own sort of sphere of vocabulary and sentence structure, they all sort of talk differently because they all have different aspirations and levels of education. And that is something I think you should really think about when writing your stories. So, for example, Atlas will notice a lot of trivial things and think about them and analyze them, not really understanding them, because he has problems with his memory due to the damage he took in the prologue. And Nanashi will act very confident at times, but have this latent insecurity that will surface sometimes, because she's very young and a very huge responsibility has been put on her shoulders. And every time she sort of shows weakness, she mentally scolds herself for it and feels this resentment that she is not living up to the expectations of her peers. And her mentor, Ray the Null, well, I think this is a great moment for an anecdote. When I started editing the book, doing the final edit with my trusty editor Tosh, he very quickly started to absolutely hate and despise the narrative strand of Ray. Every time it said Ray the Null, he would just go, "Oh no, not again, oh God." And I just loved that, because it showed me that that character had its own unique voice and he hated it, which is just great for me. I love it. Because the thing with Ray was, he was incredibly verbose. He just kept describing everything in vivid but unnecessarily long-winded detail. Everything had to be a grandiose metaphor. Everything had to be described as if he was sort of doing the end of the world narration. Every minute, every moment of his story. And Toshi picked up on that, and he absolutely hated it because he thought it was incredibly boring and pompous. And I mean, sure, you don't usually want your story to be boring, but if the story being boring gives it a sort of character, yeah, if not the story is the problem, but the character itself, that means he hates the character. And if he hates the character, that means he feels genuine emotion for the character that I created. And that, I think, is something that we should strive for as authors. So one of the ways you can realize that, and I have said this many times, but I'm going to say it again, is using or borrowing the method of the Fate Core system, where you sort of take your character and then think about what are the core aspects that make this character. Another series that also makes use of this is Westworld. Maybe you know that one. It's about this park with androids that sort of are wizarded by rich people that pay to be able to just like copulate with these androids and kill them, or whatever sick desires they have. But to make these androids as realistic as possible, they have these parameters called drives, because every real person is driven by something. If you, like myself, watch Guy's wonderful Great GM videos, you will probably have heard the line, somebody wants to get something badly and has trouble getting it, or something like that. He phrased it better, but I don't recall the exact line right now. Anyways, somebody wants something badly and has trouble getting it, that's it. Anyways, this is just boiled down of this concept of people having drives. Everybody wants something. Everybody has their past that defines who they are, and it is possible, at least for a storyteller, in a storytelling context. Don't do this with real people, that's disrespectful, but in a storytelling context, you should be able to boil down the people you are talking about, you're writing about, into core aspects, or tell their core drives to yourself. Put it in your notes. Ray's drives are: I am a brother of the Null on an important quest. This is his high concept. This is what really drives his character. So at every point in the story, when he does something, when he sees something, this is an invisible thought that sort of floats behind him, that is always in the back of his mind. Whatever he encounters, he will always think to himself, I am a brother of the Null on an important quest. What he has to do is important. He has to focus on doing whatever he can to fulfill that quest and to accurately represent the brotherhood of the Null. These are important core concepts of his character. And his trouble aspect, which I actually got from from this anecdote I told you. People keep telling me to restrain my overinflated vocabulary, which of course in itself is a completely overinflated sentence. I really enjoyed writing that little bit. But yes, this is trouble. People sort of get fed up with him talking like he is at a literary symposium trying to impress a room of poets or something. And this is his trouble aspect. This causes conflict in his life. So this is another thing that I keep in mind when I write from his perspective, when I see the world and the story through his eyes, that whatever I see, I will over-describe it. I will go out of my way to put what I see and experience into the biggest words I can think of. And other aspects that have emerged from the story, or that are secondary to his character, are: I have seen enough suffering. Inaction is no longer an option. So this is sort of the transformation that happened to his character once he arrived at the Middle Lands, and he saw the Valkyrie getting torn up by this infected, evil Earth Magus, and he tried to save her, and it didn't. Well, I'm not gonna say if it really worked out or didn't, because I don't know how far you've read along the novel, but he did see her suffer quite a bit, and after that he couldn't just say, my quest is more important than anything. He had to always consider, what is with the people in front of me? I can't just let them suffer and die. I have to help them. And that sort of created this conflict in his own character. Sometimes aspects and drives that people have can conflict each other. You can want two things that might be opposed to each other. This sounds paradoxical, but resolving this inner conflict is something that people do on a daily basis, not just in novels. And if you can bring that to paper, then I think you can really make your characters real and three-dimensional and engaging. Conflict is always an incredible driving force of good storytelling. So that was my bit for Quills with Skills this week. I'm sorry if I got a little bit intense there in the end, but I hope it was helpful. Hello, I'm Conrad Biernheide, the author of Aqualon Rise of the Broken and creator of the world Aqualon, which I host on World Anvil. If you like this segment of Quills with Skills, I hope I'll meet you on the next weekly Twitch stream, where I put up these little segments together with some live world building, map making, talking about articles, and talking Aqualon in general. You can find out more about when this happens on the Aqualon Discord, where you can also find daily exclusive facts about the world, which I personally think are very cool. And I hope to see you there in the future. Until next time, bye!